Rome was quiet that night. The streets were empty, the air was still, and the only sound echoing through the ancient alleys was the distant hum of a motorbike fading into the distance. Inside his luxury apartment overlooking the Tiber River, Yaman sat alone. Not as the international superstar adored by millions, but as a man confronting the silence he had long avoided. He glanced at the time, 3:17 a.m. His phone screen glowed faintly on the coffee table. A paused video clip showed a younger version of himself and Demet Özdemir, laughing on a talk show sofa. The chemistry, even through the screen, was undeniable. They weren't just co-stars. They weren't just actors promoting a series. They were something else, something unspoken, something powerful. And he had walked away from all of it. Ken slowly picked up his phone and opened the Notes app. He stared at the blinking cursor. For months, maybe years, he had suppressed this urge to speak out. But that night, in the stillness of Rome, his heart couldn't hold it anymore. He began to write. I regret leaving. 3 simple words. But behind them lived a storm. Success wasn't a dream for Yaman, it was his daily reality. After the phenomenal rise of Turkish, he had become a household name not just in Turkey but across Europe, Latin America, and even parts of the Middle East. Fans screamed his name at airports. Brands lined up to sign him. Paparazzi chased him through the streets of Milan and Madrid. He smiled for the cameras, signed the contracts, posted the polished photos. But deep inside? He was exhausted. There's a certain kind of loneliness that only fame can bring, the kind that creeps in when the world watches you but no one really sees you. The kind that grows louder every time a hotel door clicks shut behind you and you're left with nothing but silence. In the early days, it was thrilling. The attention, the luxury, the validation. It all felt like proof that the sacrifices were worth it. That leaving behind relationships, cities, comfort zones, even his native language and interviews, was a price worth paying. But somewhere between the flights and the flashing lights, he had lost touch with himself. And most painfully, with her. He remembered the last conversation he had with Demet. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't even dramatic. It was calm, almost too calm. Like two people carefully placing love into a box and putting it away in the attic. Promising to stay friends. Promising to be there for each other. But they both knew. It would never be the same. In the silence of his Rome apartment, Ken often wondered. What would have happened if I had stayed? What if I had chosen us instead of chasing everything else? Fame had given him the world. But it had taken hers away. Demet Özdemir was never just a co-star. To the media, they were the golden duo of Turkish television. On screen, they were electric. Off-screen, they were something else entirely, something too delicate to name and too intense to hide. Every glance between them, every unscripted smile, told a truth that words couldn't capture. Ken remembered the way Demet used to look at him during those long shooting nights. No matter how tired they were, her eyes always held a kind of warmth. She saw him, not as the rising celebrity, not as the carefully curated image on screen, but as Ken, the man behind the fame. The one with a restless heart and a quiet fear of losing control. She had been his anchor in a world spinning too fast. But anchoring a storm isn't easy. As his international offers started to pour in, Ken's schedule exploded. First a series in Italy. Then campaigns with global brands. Magazine covers in languages he couldn't even pronounce. Interviews that praised his discipline, his transformation, his global charm. But no one asked about what he had to leave behind. Not his friends. Not his city. Not even his language. But her. Demet stayed in Istanbul, continuing her own journey. She took on dramatic roles, matured as an actress, and earned respect in her own right. She smiled at events. She gave interviews where they asked about him. She answered gracefully, with diplomacy. But if you looked closely, sometimes, between words, there was a hesitation. A flicker in her eyes. A shadow of something lost. Ken would sometimes find himself searching for her name late at night on Instagram, scrolling through photos of her in gowns at film premieres, reading captions filled with motivational quotes and thankful messages to her fans. But one post stopped him dead in his tracks. It was a sunset photo. No caption. Just an old lyric. "You walked away when I needed you most." It wasn't tagged. It wasn't directed. But it hit him like a punch to the chest. That's when he realized. She never truly said goodbye. She just let go. And now, years later, he wondered. Did she still think of him too? Italy welcomed Yaman with open arms. He became a phenomenon. Crowds gathered at every appearance. Fashion weeks, red carpets, TV shows, his name was everywhere. The Italian press dubbed him Il Bello Selvaggio, the wild handsome one. A perfect blend of rugged masculinity and Mediterranean charm. But as his popularity exploded, something else inside him started to shrink. Ken had always been disciplined. He worked out obsessively, stuck to routines, perfected his Italian. His team loved him. Brands adored him. But when the lights went out, and the applause faded, the emptiness returned. He had no one to call. No one to vent to when the pressure became unbearable. No one who knew him before all of this. No one who remembered the boy from Istanbul who just wanted to act. He dated. Briefly. A few high-profile names came and went. But nothing lasted. The tabloids speculated endlessly. Why can't Yaman settle down? Is fame ruining his relationships? Is he still in love with Demet? He never responded. But every time someone mentioned her name, something shifted in his face. A crack. A silence. A wait. One night, after wrapping a long shoot for an Italian drama, Ken returned home and stood in front of the mirror. He didn't recognize the man staring back. Designer suit. Perfect beard. A face known to millions. But the eyes? Empty. Tired. Longing. That night, for the first time in years, he allowed himself to cry. Not because he was weak, but because he had held everything in for so long. The decisions. The distance. The heartbreak. And that was the night he started writing. A letter. To himself. To her. To anyone who would listen. It began with, "I regret leaving." Demet had learned to move forward. But not to forget. After Ken left for Italy, she focused on her work. She dove into challenging roles, stretching herself beyond the romantic comedies that had launched her career. She became more selective, more private. The girl who once wore her heart on her sleeve now protected it like a fortress. Her friends noticed the change. The laughter was still there, but it didn't come as easily. She was stronger, more composed, but also more distant. Love offers came, of course. But she turned most of them down. Or ended them quietly before they began. In interviews, when asked about her ideal relationship, she often said, "Someone who sees me, not just the actress. Someone who doesn't run when things get real." Her fans loved her strength. They celebrated her growth. But they also felt something unfinished. The question lingered like smoke in the air. What really happened between her and Ken? One night, while scrolling through Twitter, Demet stumbled upon a trending hashtag. Hashtag I regret leaving. She clicked out of curiosity. And froze. There it was, his post. A screenshot of a note in English. 3 words. I regret leaving. No names. No context. But she knew. Everyone knew. The timing. The silence. The weight of it. She stared at her screen for minutes, heart racing, unsure whether to cry, smile, or throw her phone across the room. Because in those 3 words was everything he never said. And everything she had waited to hear. Ken stared at the glowing screen of his phone. The words sat there, raw and honest. I regret leaving. He didn't tag anyone. He didn't explain. He just posted it. Within minutes, his fans noticed. Within hours, it was viral. By morning, it was international news. And yet, he remained silent. No follow-up. No denial. No damage control. Because for once, he wasn't trying to be perfect. He was just being real. That night, he turned off his phone and sat in the dark. He didn't expect forgiveness. He didn't expect a reply. But in his heart, he knew he had to say it. Not just for her. But for himself. Because regret, when buried, becomes poison. And his had been eating him alive for years. Within 24 hours, the post had millions of likes and comments. Some wrote, "This is the most human I've ever seen him." Others, "He still loves her. I knew it." Turkish fans flooded social media with throwback clips of Demet and Ken from the Erkenci cassette. Old interviews were reshared. A TikTok trend started. Tell me you regret losing someone without telling me you regret losing someone. The soundtrack? A slowed-down version of their first kiss scene. But the reaction wasn't just about celebrity gossip. It was about something deeper. People saw themselves in that confession. The one that got away. The mistake they couldn't undo. The words they never said out loud. Ken had become the voice of every heart too scared to speak. And in doing so, he reminded the world of one simple truth. Even stars break. Days passed. The internet calmed. But Ken couldn't. Not until he knew. He opened WhatsApp. Her name was still there. Untouched for over a year. He typed, "Can we talk?" Then deleted it. Then typed again. "I saw the sunset photo you posted last summer. I wasn't ready then. I was scared. I didn't know how to choose love over ambition. But I've never stopped thinking about you." He hovered over send. Then the screen blinked. A message appeared. From her. "I read your note. I never needed you to be perfect. I just needed you to stay." His heart raced. He typed again. "Can I come see you?" There was a pause. Then, "Yes." He landed in Istanbul on a rainy afternoon. No cameras. No handlers. No press. Just Can. He didn't wear designer clothes. He didn't walk with swagger. He walked like a man who had spent years lost, and was finally finding his way home. They met in a quiet cafe. No words at first. Just eyes. Just silence. Then she reached across the table and held his hand. And that was it. Not a fairy tale ending. Not yet. But a beginning. A second chance. They walked by the Bosphorus later that evening. He told her everything. The loneliness in Italy, the fake smiles, the nights he couldn't sleep. She listened. Not judging. Just being there. At one point, he asked, "Do you still believe in us?" She looked at him and said, "I never stopped." Months passed. They didn't announce anything. No interviews. No public photos. Just quiet, simple moments. Coffee in the mornings. Walks in the park. Inside jokes from a life they once shared. Sometimes healing doesn't come with a grand gesture. Sometimes it's in the little things. And sometimes, the best love stories are the ones that get a second act. One night, as they sat on a rooftop looking out over Istanbul, she asked, "Would you still have posted that confession if I hadn't responded?" He smiled softly. "Yes. Because it wasn't just for you. It was for the part of me I lost when I let you go." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Then let's never lose that part again." And for the first time in years, he felt whole.